we're rolling over into November, and I think I'm gonna start teaming up with my fellow co-workers, teachers in here. We got a few people here. 9 weeks is a good amount of time for people to usually get adjusted. So I keep getting these referrals. Your advisor is your advisor. It's your job to make good with your advisor. If you have a problem with your advisor, that's fine. I think that I'm going to talk to my coworkers so that we can get the action back in place, because I think people really need to work. And I think it's unfair that people are disrupting class and doing whatever they want to do. If I have help with PE, I think it's good for me to oversee people doing manual labor work. If we don't get this under control right now, we're jacked after Christmas. And I think some of you students who have been here know that a lot is asked of you here. The constant disruptions in class over the frivolous things are really old. I don't want to lose strong, dedicated students off of my students who like to disrupt and waste time. So either my job is either to break you guys or for you guys to jump on board with what it is that we do here. Now, there are a lot of you all who are doing everything that you're supposed to do, and that's awesome. I really do appreciate that. But we got 10% who is really screwing it up for the 90% here at this school. And we know who the 10% are. And I'm gonna make sure that the 10% either jumps on board or we find a different direction for them. Whether it be middle school, whether it be high school. There's a lot that we have to do this year, and we don't have time for the disruptions. So, on a lighter note, I know that Ms. Bosma's class at lunchtime is doing the bake sale. You guys have seen the signs up. Make sure that you support the class. They have some things that you may want to eat during lunchtime. That's awesome. This is a fundraiser for their particular class. And I know some of the other classes are welcome to do these types of things. But I'm really focusing in on people who are constantly here trying to waste our time. And it's very old. I feel like 9 weeks was way too long for these people to either jump on board or you just get dirty and do the work that I got for you to do. And if you don't like it, then you just take the suspension. Either way, the class is more peaceful without you in the classroom, whether you're at home taking your zeros or out doing work taking the zeros. You make the option. How do you choose?
So just a reminder to my PIBL class, myself and Dr. Cat, we are headed out tomorrow to Gainesville. So we're departing promptly at 8:30 in the morning. So you'll see us start to gather. We'll find you right after advisory to start getting together. So remember, try to bring some bus money. $10 is what we're asking for, and then either bring money for lunch or a bag lunch. Get ready to do a little bit of walking. Comfortable footwear would be good. That's it. Good. Yeah. So we'll get back here. Tell your parents to pick you up around 5:30. If that's an issue, find me at some point today. I already have a couple people that said they need to be on a van. That's no worries. We can get you home. Dr. K goes towards the beach. I'll go wherever we need to go. So just let us know.
Just out of curiosity, where you guys going? I mean, for what?
The University of Florida Natural History Museum is our big target. Yeah. Okay, cool. So just a reminder about that.
All right, so last thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. J. If you haven't noticed, a lot of these teachers, have been going far out their way so that you guys have educational field trips. That same behavior, you have to be on your best behavior at all time. It's to the teacher's discretion whether people go, but you have to note that if you're missing field trips, you're taking zeros for them. Even if it's an elective field trip, you're taking zeros. Everything that you do here It's for education. It's not like, hey, we're just going to go to Adventure Landing and go swim. That happens at the end of the year when there is no more learning. So every field trip, whether it be art, whether if PE has something set up, or garden class, or as Mr. Will and them are going to Gainesville, all these things are for school purposes. It's not an option of whether you want to go or not. You know, you guys are taking zeros, so workplace standards are impossible to make up. It's impossible to make up a workplace standard after exhibiting 9 weeks of just not caring. So think about what you're doing. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. The lion woke up in the jungle and he felt really feisty this day. And he decided, after having a pretty good breakfast, I'm going to go prove who's the boss of this jungle. So he went out and went into the water, and there was a snake. He said to the snake, "Who's the king of this jungle?" The snake looked at him and said, "Well, you are, sir." And then the snake slithered off real fast. So he walked back on the land, and there was a giraffe. He went up to the giraffe and said, "Who's the king of this jungle?" The giraffe looked at him and said, "Well, of course you are, sir." That's right. The giraffe walked away. Lion wandered around for a while and came across a horse. "Who's the king of this jungle?" Horse said, "You are, sir." Lion said, "That's right." Horse turned around and ran as fast as he could. Wandering over around the corner, he sees an elephant over there looking to get something out of a tree. Lion goes up to the elephant and says, "Who's the king of this jungle?" Lion grabs him by the tail and slings him around his head and hits him against the tree, bangs him on the ground a little bit, throws him in the water, picks him up with his trunk, swings him around again, hits him on one tree, hits him on the other tree, hits him on the other tree, knocks him down. Lion says, "Good grief. You didn't have to get mad just because you didn't know the answer." Oh, were you there? No man is an island. No man stands alone. Each man's grief is grief for me. Each man's hurt is his own and mine. We need each other. We need to understand and love. According to the scripture, we need to care about what happens to us and live with each as we can, because no man is an island. Now, you would think when Adam and Eve were born that maybe a man could think he was an island during that time, but not even then. Everything that Adam and Eve did and what happened afterwards not only affected whoever came into the garden and followed Adam and Eve, but affects us today. Everything we do affects somebody. You remember the story. God said you can have enjoyment of the garden. In fact, the Bible says that every day, and I imagine it was Jesus who took it upon himself, walked with Adam in the garden, and they wandered around naming the animals, looking at the land that they had made, and who knows what else. And all the fruit was there, everything that they could enjoy in vegetables. And they had a pretty good life until snake, wandering around a tree, said to Eve, "Let me tell you something, Eve. God knows if you eat of this fruit that you'll be as wise as he is. And that's why he doesn't want you to eat it." And Eve said, "Really?" You can trust me. So she took a bite, and she brought it to Adam. And you know the end of the story there. God looked around, couldn't find Adam or Eve. They were both hidden because they said they were naked. They didn't have any clothes. And by the standpoint of what they were working with, on that basis,
So Adam was the first person, the first human being, right?
I haven't the faintest idea. So on the basis of trying to understand God's commandment, they were hidden. God said, "Why are you hiding from me?" Because we're naked. They weren't innocent anymore. And God said, "Well, who told you we're naked? Did you eat of the fruit you weren't supposed to eat?" And they admitted it. And God kicked them out of the garden. Said, "You won't be back here again." And then in natural progression, Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. It must have been a horrible thing for Eve to go through the first birth and to experience the kind of pain and the lack of understanding of what it was going to be like once they had broken God's rules. So Cain and Abel are born. And they, like Adam, have to work off the ground. As it was, when Adam had free reign of the garden because he hadn't done anything wrong, wherever he went, he could take vegetables and fruits, and they ate and had their luxury. But now, the curse was that man had to work. He would have to get his food from the ground, and the understanding was that's exactly the way it would be for man from that point on. So Cain and Abel worked on their own, as they were taught by Adam, worked their garden, gave themselves the food best they understood. In the lack of their loss, while they struggled, and while Adam and Eve had to figure out how to make a living in a world that they weren't familiar with, there was a time when they were supposed to bring gifts to God. And at that point, Abel, who took care of the sheep, brought one of his best sheep to God and sacrificed in a way of saying he loved God. Cain, on the other hand, decided to work from his garden and picked out some of his vegetables and some of the fruits, not necessarily the best ones, just ones he could get rid of, and he brought his offering to God as well. God was happy with Abel. He was grateful for Abel taking the time to sacrifice to his Creator. But he wasn't very happy with Cain. So the brothers each brought a gift to God. Cain got the best of the produce that he had grown, mostly. Some extra that he wanted to get rid of. Abel brought the best of sheep from his flock and gave it to God. Something about Abel's offering and the way it was given was pleasing to God. What Cain did was not. On the other hand, God was unhappy with Cain's gift. When Cain sensed that his offering was unacceptable, his face grew angry. And when the Lord saw it, he said, "Cain, why are you angry? All you have to do is what you're supposed to do. You know you didn't bring me the best. You know you took what was extra, and you brought that to me. Now, Cain, you haven't brought me the best. Abel brought me his best, and he sacrificed so that I could have it. If you learn to do right, you'll be okay." Cain did not listen to God's warning. Instead, "Abel, you want to take a walk with me?" And Abel said, "I guess so." It was as they took the walk that suddenly Cain turned around and killed his brother. Now there's real jealousy. And Cain was pretty unhappy. Abel was dead. Cain didn't listen to God. And now God, knowing that Cain had murdered his brother, said, Cain, I want to talk to you. I can't find your brother. Where is he? How should I know? Cain says. Am I my brother's keeper? You ask that question too. You ought to ask it right now. Are you your brother's keeper? No. What responsibility do you have to somebody else? What do you care how you affect someone? Who cares how much it costs to take care of you or raise you or have you eat their food or ride in their car or even take up their time? What difference does it make if you don't show up for an appointment and affect their schedule? You don't have any obligation to anybody. Don't worry about them. Like Cain, worry about yourself. Worry about what you're doing and nobody else. Adam and Eve, they had two sons. First one born was Cain. He tilled the field and reaped the harvest in the sun and rain. His younger brother Abel tended sheep, and he was blessed. And Cain was angry because the Lord liked Abel's offering best. Now, children, hearken, understand the lesson of this fable. How Cain in anger raised his hand and killed his brother Abel. The Lord, he asked, where Abel go? Where did Abel go? Cain, where did Abel go? And Cain replied, how should I know? I'm not my brother's keeper. Your brother's sheep wander from each other. Cain, where's your brother? And Cain said, only Abel knows. Only Abel knows. Only Abel knows where he comes and where he goes. I'm not my brother's keeper. I thought I heard a cry of pain, and in my ear it lingers. Now, Cain, what is that dark red stain I see upon your finger? Then Cain, he bowed his head and said, I killed my brother. Killed him dead. I'm not my brother's keeper. The Lord, he said, upon the ground, the mark of death and sorrow will be yours to carry now for many a long tomorrow. Then Cain, he wept and said, I know. He said, I know. He said, I know. I guess we, your children here below, are all our brother's keeper. The Lord looked at Cain and said, you, your children here below, you are your brother's keeper. What are the greatest commandments, Jesus? There are only two. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love yourself, but you are also your brother's keeper. And anything destroying this world is because you have ignored the needs of your brother. God bless you.